Now, two people, including an American citizen, have been killed by Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. The family of 20-year-old Sayfollah Musallet from Florida say that he was beaten to death in Sinjil by Israeli settlers, who then prevented paramedics from reaching him for 3 hours. And a medical report found that another man, 23-year-old Mohammed al-Shalabi, was shot in the chest with a bullet entering his back. Well, we can cross over to Jerusalem to speak to my colleague Emir Nader, who joins us live now. And Emir, let's start with what happened at the West Bank. Just fill us in with the details.
Well, I've just been speaking with the mayor of the village where the incident took place yesterday. He confirmed to me the account of the family that the settlers, when the attack began, they beat Sayfollah, the US citizen, they beat him to death, and whilst he was dying, paramedics who tried to access the scene were prevented by the settlers for a number of hours, and it wasn't until later that the brother was able to go and retrieve his body, but by then it was too late. The mayor said that in recent weeks there'd been a growing movement of extremist settlers trying to take over Palestinian lands around the village, constructing what's called an outpost, which is often quite a rudimentary structure which is set up by the most aggressive settlers as a sort of first structure in an attempt to take over more lands. And as you mentioned, there was a second man who the Palestinian Ministry of Health in the West Bank, they said he died from a gunshot wound to the back. Now, we have had a comment also from the Israeli military who said that they believe the incident was sparked by what they called terrorists throwing stones at Israeli civilians, apparently referring to Palestinians in the local area there. And those are the current details that we have about the incident, but it does come within this context of a real surge in the construction of these illegal outposts since the start of the war in Gaza. Settlers are emboldened in the West Bank, they're trying to take over more land, and indeed we're also seeing the construction of approved settlements backed by the Israeli government. And finally, the US State Department has issued a statement saying it is aware of the reports that one of its citizens has been killed, but wouldn't comment further for now out of respect for the family.
And Emir, that's the situation on the occupied West Bank. When it comes to Gaza itself and the negotiations on a potential ceasefire, we understand that they are being described as on the verge of collapse. Where are we with them?
Yeah, we're hearing real dire accounts of the current status of those ongoing negotiations there in Qatar. Obviously, they've been taking place at the same time over this past week during the trip of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he was visiting President Trump. We heard during the trip, we were hearing very positive signals, optimistic signals. Benjamin Netanyahu saying that he believed a deal could be really reached within days. Now, those hopes are really being dashed. Those two Palestinian officials who've spoken to the BBC are saying there's been no progress in days, there's an impasse. Key points of contention, such as the withdrawal of Israeli troops, there's been no movement on that. Israel is trying to keep its troops as deep into the Gaza Strip as possible, whereas the Palestinian side is rejecting that. It's almost the end of Shabbat here now, so we may expect the Israeli side of events coming in the next few hours.
Emir, joining us from Jerusalem, thank you so much there. My colleague Emir Nader there with the situation when it comes to those the ceasefire, and what we are understanding is that it is on the verge of collapse. And of course, there'll be a lot of concern in Gaza about that. Let's cross over live to Gaza. We can talk to Dr. Mohammed Fadlallah, who is the medical activity manager for the Médecins Sans Frontières group, joining us from Deir el-Balah in Gaza. Just when it comes to the situation on the ground, bring us up to date where we are, because of course it is a really difficult situation for people in Gaza.
I think every day things are getting progressively worse for the Gazans who live here. Obviously, the blockade's been going on for months now. Goods are scarce. Inflation continues to rise. There's nothing in the markets. People are hungry. And then with this talk of ceasefire dragging on, prolonging, I think people are starting to lose a little bit of hope as well.
You paint a difficult picture there with people losing hope. We've been here so many times with ceasefire negotiations. Just when it comes to Médecins Sans Frontières, your organisation, are you able to get any forms of aid through, or is it just now down to this group, this new group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation?
So in general, for the population, it's just what comes in more or less through the GHF sites. Here and there, I think some of the UN agencies do get a truck or two in. Us, as the medical organization, have been able to get a truck in here or there. But what we're getting in vastly underestimates what our needs are. And the needs continue to rise. The injured keep coming in greater and greater numbers, particularly on days where there are distributions. And we're not matching what our needs are right now in terms of the supplies to take to run the hospital.
Can you just explain to us, when you talk about when the distributions happened, you said the need for attention increases. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think at this point, as has been well documented, and I can speak to it myself, whenever there are GHF distributions, we get mass casualty incidents, influxes of patients going to all the nearest surrounding hospitals and health facilities with bullet injuries, explosive injuries. So these rising numbers of patients get dispersed throughout all the hospitals around us, and including our hospital. So in the last month or so that the GHF sites have been operating, we have all seen a rise in the number of patients that we're needing to take care of. And this is in addition to the numbers of patients that we're seeing routinely who come in following airstrikes, following shellings, following drone attacks, and things like that.
What kind of injuries are you seeing, sir?
I mean, we're seeing the whole gamut of war-related injuries. We're seeing bullets go through people's chests, go through people's abdomens, causing severe damage to lungs, livers, bowel, internal injuries, internal bleeding. Patients needing to have pieces of their bowel resected and reconnected. We're seeing a lot of bullets in limbs, even in children, requiring amputations at times, explosive injuries resulting in severe burns and internal bleeding, head injuries that get transferred to other facilities. So we're seeing the whole gamut of what can happen when people are assaulted by weapons of war.
Dr. Mohammed Fladala from Médecins Sans Frontières joining us from Gaza, from Deir el-Balah. Thank you very much for your time.